Nike is on a mission to get its stride back. It's the world's largest sportswear company, and in the past few years, it's faced serious challenges.
China was once Nike's golden growth engine. China was a market that promised endless expansion. There was a rising middle class demand, and there was a deep love for global brands. But today, that same China market is becoming one of Nike's biggest challenges. So, what changed? How did a brand that has dominated global sports culture suddenly start losing momentum in one of the most important economies in the world? Nike has been labeled as the world's most valuable sports brand multiple times, but today it faces crisis in world's second most populated country. And more importantly, is this just a temporary slowdown or a deeper strategic failure? Well, to understand the present, we need to go back. Nike entered China decades ago, but its real growth story began in early 2000s when China's economy was booming and Chinese urban youth culture was evolving rapidly. Nike didn't just sell shoes, it sold aspiration. Nike aligned itself with the Chinese basketball culture, which was heavily influenced by NBA. Players like Kobe Bryant became icons in China, and Nike rode that wave perfectly. And by 2010, China had become Nike's fastest growing market, significantly contributing to global revenues. Nike's strategy worked because it understood three key things about China: rising disposable incomes, youth-driven brand aspiration, and the power of global sports culture. At one point, Nike was not just a brand in China. In fact, it was a brand. But then gradually, cracks began to show in the fairy tale. And the turning point came not because of the increasing competition, rather, it came from the geopolitics.
Nike is doing something pretty counterintuitive in China right now. Instead of trying to get its products in the front of more people online, it's pulling back. Starting January 1st, 2027, more than 1,000 third-party vendors on Chinese e-commerce platforms will no longer be authorized to sell Nike gear.
In 2021, Nike stated that it would avoid sourcing cotton from Xinjiang province due to concerns over forced labor allegations. And this had triggered a massive backlash in China. This is the Xinjiang province controversy. In 2021, retail giants like Nike and H&M faced massive backlash in China because both of these companies expressed concerns over use of forced labor in Xinjiang region of China. BBC had published a report that Muslim minority of China was being forced into labor in the Xinjiang region to grow cotton. Xinjiang is China's biggest region, and it also produces almost around 1/5 of world's total cotton. Millions of Muslim minority live in this particular region, and in the recent years, the migration of China's ethnic majority to Xinjiang has fueled tensions between these two ethnic groups. And in fact, the tension has risen up so much that there have been deadly violence between these two ethnic communities. There are also reports that this Muslim minority is also being detained at camps where they are tortured, forced into labor, and sexual abuse cases have also emerged. Now, both of these companies had expressed concerns over this issue, and as a result, social media and China state media, both of these entities launched campaigns against these two companies, Nike and H&M. In their campaigns, these media houses claimed that these companies such as Nike and H&M, they are spreading rumors about China, and they also heavily criticize these brands. Many Chinese nationals had called for boycotts. Celebrities had cut down ties with these brands. The endorsements had gone down, and the e-commerce platforms, they had also dropped Nike and H&M from their platforms. Calling out China on what it regards as a core domestic issue is something which Beijing has never liked. China likes to use its trading might and retail nationalism to pressure governments and also MNCs so that it can create an image which protects its identity at home and also across borders. Suddenly, Nike was not seen as a premium brand because of this controversy. It was seen as a foreign company taking a political stance against China, and the consequences were immediate. social media backlash, celebrity endorsements going down. E-commerce visibility had also reduced for these two brands. In China, brand perception is deeply tied to national sentiment.
The turnaround, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I think that showed on the last quarter's earnings results.
And Nike unfortunately had miscalculated that risk. Another reason is the changing behavior of Chinese people. Chinese consumers today are more nationalistic than they have ever been before. Buying decisions are no longer just about quality or design. Now they are about identity as well. And this is where domestic brands stepped in. While Nike was dealing with backlash, local brands like Anta and Li-Ning were quietly transforming themselves. These local brands became stylish, they also became technologically competitive, and they also became deeply connected to Chinese culture. Li-Ning, for example, repositioned itself as a brand which is premium, as a brand which is fashion forward, and it also showcased itself as a domestic homegrown Chinese brand. Anta acquired global assets like Fila China, and they also invested heavily in R&D. And most importantly, they understood the Chinese consumer better than Nike could ever do. These were the two main issues which Nike struggled with. But apart from these two major issues, there were several other key challenges as well, which plagued Nike in China. There was a cultural mismanagement. Nike's global branding model assumes that aspiration flows from the Western countries to the rest of the world. But that is actually not true nowadays. In China, that equation is reversing. Local identity is becoming more aspirational than global identity. Then also came issues with the supply chain, post-pandemic disruptions and over-reliance on global supply chains led to massive inventory mismatches. Nike struggled again to align its product availability. It struggled to meet the local changing patterns, and it also was very slow to launch new products in the market. And meanwhile, local brands were faster, they were more agile, and the shoe giant, the Nike, also could not fully integrate itself with the digital ecosystem of China. China is unique in that sense because it has WeChat commerce and it has also integrated social shopping. Nike's global strategy did not or could not fully adapt to this ecosystem, but then China players were fully in synchronization with this digital ecosystem. Nike operated at a premium price point, but when the local players also offered the similar quality with a touch of national sentiment, consumers actually started asking that why should we pay premium for Nike? However, despite all this, writing off Nike and assuming that Nike has lost its way in China forever would be a mistake. Nike still has a strong brand equity. It has innovation capabilities and it has a global athlete ecosystem. But recovery will require a shift. It needs to hyper-localize branding, and it also needs to localize storytelling. It needs to rebuild trust with China consumers, and it needs to compete culturally, not just commercially. And further, it also needs to integrate itself deeply into China's digital ecosystem. This shall not be a marketing fix, rather it will be a strategic transformation. To conclude, Nike's China story is bigger than just one company. It reflects a larger shift in the global economy where local champions are rising, and the global giants such as Nike and H&M, they can no longer assume dominance. The real question is not whether China needs Nike. The real question is if Nike can still remain relevant in a China that has moved on from Nike.